Hi, dear travelers. Spring has just begun, and I dreamed about celebrating it with you in the gardens of Florence, Lucca, and Tuscany, but unfortunately, it is not possible yet. So I decided to share with you my passion for a flower, which is the camellia, which marks the advent of the end of winter and the arrival of springtime. So I will tell you everything about the history, the origins of the camellias, and the role that they played in the gardens of Florence and Lucca. So, the camellias come from Asia, especially from China, Japan, Vietnam, and Nepal. And their botanical name comes from a name of the Jesuit missionary Georg Joseph Kamel. He used to sign with the word Camellias, and according to the Latinized custom of the time, so we are in the 17th century. And later, the botanist, the Swedish botanist Linnaeus, so the one who invented the binomial nomenclature, he wanted to replace the name of a flower, and he used the name of Joseph Kamel. So that's the origin of the name Camellia, which was called tsubaki in Japan, for example. And it belongs to the family of Teaceae because from the leaves of the camellia, of the sinensis camellia coming from China, we can get the tea. We are going to see it in the next slides together. And well, in order to breathe in good conditions, of course, the camellias need a temperate climate. So they need the alternance of the four seasons. And we have a lot of varieties of camellias. The most famous are the three ones I wrote at the top of the list. So you have the Camellia japonica, which comes from Japan, the Camellia sinensis coming from China, and Camellia sasanqua, which usually blossoms in autumn. Whereas in the pictures that you can see, in the first one in the left, the yellow flower is a Camellia nitidissima, whereas on the right, the following one, this is a Camellia malliflora, and in the third picture you can admire a Camellia reticulata, which is one of the oldest kind of camellia. Then, about the shape and the colors of the camellia's flower. The shape are six different types. So we have the single flower, the semi-double flower, the anemone flower, the peony flower, a rose-forked double flower, or the formal double flower. And concerning the colors, usually the colors are white, rose, red, or multicolor. And sometimes, but it's very rare, we can find yellow camellias as well, as the Camellia nitidissima I showed you in the last slide. Well, a few gardening tips concerning the camellias. You know that the pollination we can get the pollination of the camellia through the wind or bugs, and the reproduction of the camellias comes from seed, by rooted cuttings, by air layering, by cleft grafting. And of course, the camellia needs shadow, so they tolerate a cold climate as well, and they need acidic soil. And if they are in pots, you need to water camellias every day in summer. You can associate a camellia's flower with different kind of trees, for example, oaks or wild pines and bamboo, which is the typical postcard from Japan or China. And magnolias as well is a good association, a good combination with camellias. Cherry trees, of course, as well. And concerning flowers, we suggest the buttercup, jasmine, forsythia, calycanthus, daffodils, primroses, windflowers, snowdrops, heather, and hydrangeas. And you can get a wonderful and very theatrical effect with clematis and wisteria especially. So, the uses of camellia in China, as I told you before, from the leaves of the Camellia sinensis coming from China, we can extract the tea. So the leaves are very green and glossy, and the tea was discovered by English merchants coming in China in the 18th century. So they wanted to purchase the tea of Chinese merchants, but the Chinese were jealous about their best tea. So they sold to English merchants the plant of the Camellia sinensis, which was called tea, so the same pronunciation. And the English, so they discovered that from the leaves they could get the tea. And the Camellia became very popular for the tea and for the flowers as well during the 18th century everywhere in Europe. So about the mythology in Japan, the camellia is a very important flower for the Japanese culture. It is called tsubaki, which means rose of Japan. And in mythology, where here you have a wonderful painting, which is a triptych by Toyohara Chikanobu, which is written below. And it represents a myth concerning the god of the sea and the storm, who was called Susano. You can see him in the center of the painting. So he was the brother of Amaterasu, who was the goddess of the sun, the most important in the cosmogony, in the pantheon of Japanese religion and mythology. And Susano wanted to save the people of the island of Honshu in Japan. They were threatened by a monster, a dragon, that you can actually see, or better glimpse in the left of the painting. He was a dragon with provided with 8 heads and 8 tails, and every year he wanted to kill the young girl, the young ladies of the people of the island of Honshu. So Susano wanted to save, of course, the people of the island, and with his sword he could kill the enemy. And so he saved the life of the young girl that you can see in the writing, in the painting, and behind her you can see her parents as well. And then, after killing the dragon, he found a sword in between the heads of the dragon. And this sword was the magical and divine sword which nowadays belong to the emperor's treasures, with the mirror and the jewel. So in the sword he got the light of the sun coming from the sister of Susano, Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, and later he put his sword in the grass in the meadow of the island of Honshu. And the sword was still dirty and spotted with the blood of the dragon. So from the sword a tree was born, and it was a tree of camellias, and the flowers of the plant were spotted with red. So it was the illusion of the blood of the dragon. And in the mythology of the Japanese culture, the camellia was associated with the broken life, the sacrifice of the young girls, the young ladies. So it was associated with the premature death. So that's the reason why it has a sad and melancholic meaning to Japanese people and to samurai as well in the past. Anyway, today it is quite different because the uses of the camellia in Japan are a lot. And for example, one of the most famous, the most known, is the oil of the camellia, which is used for the hair. So if you want to get long hair, they suggest you to use the tsubaki oil. The other use is about wood. So nowadays it is less known. It was used especially in the past for swords as well, and other items of samurai and aristocratic people. So camellias arrived in the 18th century in Europe, and they spread especially in Great Britain, in Portugal, Germany, and Italy, according to the climate, of course, and the soil. And actually, the biggest camellia we have in Europe is the Pillnitz camellia near Dresden in Germany. You can see that actually the camellias are shrubs. They are evergreen shrubs. Of course, they can be semi-hardy or hardy shrubs, but they can become trees, especially in Asia, in Japan and in China. They can reach very, very high height, sorry. So they can be 6 meters high or 18 meters high. So this is very it is actually a big tree. And of course, the fashion of camellias was very important too during the 19th century, in literature as well, because of a novel written by Alexandre Dumas, the son of the other Alexandre Dumas. So we have La Dame aux Camellias, so the Lady of the Camellias, which was of course played at the theater as well, as you can see here on the right. This was played by Sarah Bernard, who was a very famous French actress. And about fashion, of course, camellias were the most favorite flower of Coco Chanel, who used the camellia as her logo. And camellias spread in Italy, especially in 4 regions. So we have from left to right, we have Liguria, which is situated in the northwest of Italy. Then we have Tuscany, Lombardy, so the region of Milan, and actually the camellias there spread especially in the area of the lakes. And the final one, the last one, is Campania, where the first camellia arrived, and it was cultivated in the garden of Caserta. It was called La Celebratissima. Well, about Florence and Tuscany. So we have a lot of camellias flowers in the gardens of Florence. Here we are in the first pictures, in the first row. We have 2 pictures coming from the Budini Gattai garden, which is situated in Piazza Santissima Annunziata. We are in the center of Florence. Then we have in the second row, these are 2 pictures from the Boboli Gardens in the center of Florence, of course belonging to the Pitti Palace, the first residence of the Medici family. And the last 2 pictures represent the Bardini Garden, which is linked to the Boboli Garden as well. Then we have the camellias in the gardens of Lucca. We are about 1 hour from Florence. Lucca is a wonderful city, and it is surrounded by a green crown of gardens and villas. And here, for example, in the first row, we have all pictures showing us the Villa Reale di Marlia. We are in the outskirts of Lucca. And then we have 2 pictures below of Villa Torrigiani. And Lucca is very famous because in the district of the city we have the very known and small and picturesque Borgo delle Camellie. So this is the Camellias village, which is a historical town as well. Here you can see all the monuments, the highlights that you can visit and see while you are visiting the Borgo delle Camellie. These are 3 pictures more, a camellia, a bridge, and we are in Pieve di Compito, which is a very small town close to Lucca. And here they can boast the Camellietum Compitese in the same village of Pieve di Compito. So they won in 2016 a very prestigious prize and title, which is the International Camellia Garden of Excellence. And from the Camellietum Compitese in Pieve di Compito arrives the first tea made in Italy, 100% made in Italy. So it comes from the Chiusa Borrini. It was a project by Guido Cattolica in the 80s when he started an experimental plantation of Camellia da te, so the tea camellia, so the first 100% Italian tea, as I told you before. and the seeds were coming from the Camellia sinensis, so the camellia from China, and the plants were grown in the botanical garden of Lucca. And nowadays it has over 2,500 Camellia sinensis plants, from which we have 4 types of tea. So the white tea, the green tea, the black tea, and the oolong tea. And of course, we have some events concerning camellias as well in Florence in March, of course, which is the month of the blossom, of the blooming of the camellias. So this is an exhibition held at Palazzo Gondi. We are just behind Palazzo Vecchio, so behind Piazza della Signoria in Florence. And it is usually organized by the Garden Club of Florence. And of course, we have some events in Lucca as well. So usually we have the Antiche Camellie della Lucchesia exhibition. And this year it is possible to visit the exhibition, but you have to book in advance. And it will be open from March 13 to the end of May, so to May 13th. And it takes place in Capannori, which is close to Lucca, and the Borgo delle Camellie, so the 2 villages of Sant'Andrea and Pieve di Compito. And sorry, it is to May 30th. So this is a small bibliography and the web pages of the gardens and the other places that I mentioned during this short introduction about the camellias. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to show you the camellias live from the gardens of Florence and Lucca. Thank you very much for watching. Ciao, see you soon. Bye bye.